Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have two of my favorite people in compliance, Erica Salmon and Bill Coffin, both with Ethisphere. Lady and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for having us. We're delighted to have a chance to talk to you about our forthcoming appearance at risk.
Before we get there, could you both tell us your current roles in the greater compliance community?
Absolutely. Bill, if you don't mind, I'll go first. Okay, perfect. So, Tom, I currently have the privilege of serving as Ethisphere's Chief Strategy Officer, as well as the Executive Chair of the Business Ethics Leadership Alliance. As in that role, I wear a lot of hats, as one might imagine from that panoply of titles. But really, what it means is I spend a lot of my time talking to members of the compliance community, talking about what we are seeing coming, talking about emerging risks, talking about challenges, and all of the ways that we can solve those things together.
Bill?
And I'm editor-in-chief at Ethisphere. I manage Ethisphere magazine, but also I run the Ethicast podcast. So one of the most wonderful things I get to do is speaking with people, thought leaders. I connect with Erica all the time, and we produce episodes that really are meant to elevate success stories and rising trends in the E&C space. We do it in the spirit of there's no competition in compliance. And so we love to kind of raise best practices and learning opportunities for anybody in the discipline to learn from and to go, you know what, that's a great idea. I want to incorporate that in my program. Or, you know what, that was a horrifying story I just heard. I want to make sure we avoid that at all costs.
Well, that really leads into your presentation because you're gonna tell us about that. But I'm absolutely thrilled on the format of your presentation. So could you tell us both the substance and format that makes it so exciting and unique?
Absolutely. As Bill mentioned, Tom, one of the things that we try to do is we pick often horror stories. Those usually tend to be the ones that we pick. And we do a sub-series of Ethicast called Ethicast Reacts. And what that is essentially Bill and I hopping on the show together to talk about a particular piece of news, what we see in the fact pattern. And what we really try to focus on is to help compliance practitioners think about not could it happen here? Because more often than not, the specifics of a particular situation might not happen inside of a given organization. But more importantly, how could it happen here? Because, Tom, as you and I have talked about over the years that we've known each other, there are only so many ways that people are going to people. And you can take something out of every fact pattern and think about what it would look like at your organization and how you might get out in front of that particular issue. So, Bill and I did a version of this at the Global Ethics Summit that Ethisphere hosts every year. Earlier this spring, we picked some doozies of some news stories, and we just had a great time unpacking each one of them and talking about what we saw in the fact pattern and what we would do if we were somebody inside of an organization reading that particular news piece and asking themselves, what would something like that look like inside our organization?
Yeah, and I'll just say that this whole program it's an outgrowth of just a natural tendency that both Erica and I have to just take in just an awful lot of news. So we're always kind of on the back channel on our company's Slack going, "Hey, did you see this story? Did you see that story?" And kind of capturing the conversation that it inspires. And it's funny, the stories we select are kind of a mix between stories that are just a breaking story that really deserves immediate conversation, such as when the ECCP updated or recent comments around how the FCPA is going to be enforced. Those things, those are items where the community is going to want to know context pretty quickly. The other cohort of stories, though, are stories that are relevant and recent, but they're not necessarily you have to know about them right now. It's more a matter of what is the larger story this tells us. And a lot of these tales that we draw upon have kind of long shelf lives because the things that they connect to are fairly evergreen, fairly fundamental pieces of what constitutes E&C best practice. And we're always on the prowl for stories that are new and relevant. I think the reason why we like to focus on news is because when a story captures your immediate attention, it has an extra a bit of agency in terms of storytelling juice. And we like to focus on these things, not because we have a ghoulish desire to look at things that have happened in the news that are unfortunate,
A little
but because
ghoulish.
yeah, if it bleeds, it leads. And as we say in journalism, vultures never starve. But the reality, though, is that in the E&C world, people are always looking for opportunities to tell a story and to use storytelling to gain support for advancing their program. So these episodes are really meant in that spirit, is to arm people out there, practitioners, with more storytelling opportunities to make their case and to explain why E&C manages risk and builds organizational value.
And Bill, I'm so glad you mentioned that last piece because one of the interesting things that I have seen over the course of the last several months talking to members of the community is people actually take those Ethicast React stories, particularly inside of organizations where there's just a real discomfort in using any of their own fact patterns. We've come a long way over the last 2 decades, Tom, in getting people comfortable with using what's really happened inside their organizations, law and order style, where they anonymize the details. But there are still a lot of companies out there where the labor and employment lawyers or the general counsel just says, nope, absolutely not, can't use any of the real stuff. And that's where these stories come in. Bill and I take very seriously our responsibility from our perspective to source things that can be utilized. If you are having trouble getting the attention of management on a particular topic, you can take the Detroit River Conservancy embezzlement case and use Bill and I reacting to that to say, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's do a tabletop. What would it look like here? Or one of the other ones that Bill and I recently did is the Intel employees that were just convicted of embezzlement. So we try to pick some things that members of the community can use inside their own organizations to say, okay, you're not willing to talk about our own stuff, but let's talk about this bad thing that happened to somebody else and use it as a learning exercise.
Yeah. And just to follow up on that, the stories we pick, we always really try to focus on stories that are very high profile in the news, that we expect there to be a general awareness of them in the community in the first place. We certainly don't want to talk about the things that we're doing within Ethisphere. And we expect that there's a certain public profile to the stories that we pick.
I'd like to end by asking each of you, what do you hope to get out of #Risk New York City next month?
Tom, I'm excited that there's going to be such a variety of people from different backgrounds at the event. We tend, particularly here at Ethisphere, given how long I've been doing this work, how long Bill's been doing this work, how long the organization has been around, we tend to end up talking to people who are kind of inside the E&C bubble, right? Like that is the world that we exist in. And the fact that this is a conference that is thinking about the cross-pollination of learnings from risk, that is looking at the broader GRC context, I'm excited to have an opportunity to talk to some people who are coming at things from a perspective that's different than mine.
Bill?
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I'm excited that we get to socialize stories that I think people are kind of at least partially aware of, but we get to really drive home the context in which they exist in an E&C space. And I think that arming folks with better E&C storytelling is good for everyone. And I believe in that very strongly, and I'm very excited to have an opportunity to do just that.
Guys, I'm definitely looking forward to your presentation. I'm looking forward to catching up, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next month at #Risk New York City. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Compliance Podcast Network. Start your mornings with daily compliance news, quick, sharp updates on the top compliance and ethics stories in under 5 minutes every morning in Compliance Podcast Network. Because compliance never sleeps. Need practical advice fast? Check out Compliance Tip of the Day. One actionable idea to level up your program. Short and sweet, every day on Compliance Podcast Network. Got 10 minutes? We've got the week's top 10 stories. 10 for 10 brings you the big compliance headlines. Fast, fun, and focused. Every Saturday on Compliance Podcast Network. And don't miss the Sunday Book Review, where compliance meets culture through must-read books and big ideas every Sunday in Compliance Podcast Network. Whether you're in the office, on a walk, or commuting, stay smart, stay ethical, stay tuned. Only on the Compliance Podcast Network, available wherever you listen to podcasts.